have.
Oh
And
my
then
God.
within 4 hours, we had to be up for STLV. So STLV last year was at the Rio in Las Vegas, which is a stunning hotel, huge convention center, loads of different little rooms. And Graham had decided that he was going to go as his alter ego, the Velvet Snatch, which is his drag alter ego. And if anyone goes to Vegas in August, they will tell you it's hot. It is. It is 45 degrees. Graham decided to get changed in the hotel and then walk to the car. And I said, no, you will have to run. He got changed and then had to run to the car and then had to sit head down with the air conditioning vents blowing on his head because his makeup was running off.
Oh my God.
This was every day.
So y'all did not have a room at the Rio then?
No, we both stayed at the Luxor and the Excalibur. He stayed in the Excalibur, I stayed at the Luxor. We couldn't get the Rio to save our lives because obviously STLV. So we got to the convention. But I tell you this, all of that hell on the plane, all of the heat, it is worth it to be at STLV with fellow Trekkies to embrace our love of Star Trek. It is something else.
And with all the stuff you just said is the reason why I feel like everybody that I talk to in my groups over here, unfortunately, I just don't think I'm going to get to make it in this year again, just because of work and schedules and all that type of stuff. But oh my God, they're like, you need to go. You need to go. I'm like, they're like, you're not going to go. I'm like, I can't. I have to work. It's like where I work at. That's our busy time. Like I can't be gone. Like, well, you need to go. I'm like, well, I can't. So I said, I will go in 2026. I will be able to make it in 2026. There'll be which would be fine because that'll be the 60th anniversary. So that's going to even be,
it's going to be huge.
That's going to be huge. I mean, like, I feel like the instant that I just need to pre-plan this, that the instant that I can get a room at the Rio in 2026, book it then. Book it from now. I'm saying for me and all of us, because that way, when it's open, you've got a room there because it's going to be huge.
It is an experience that I can't quite describe if you've never been before. This was my first major American Trek convention, and oh boy, we did a lot of recording throughout the 4 days. We interviewed a lot of people. The most terrifying thing was that we were recognized at the convention. I thought I was in trouble. So someone had come up to me and they were like, "You're Captain Goodwill, right?" And I'm like, "Oh God, what have I done?" Because that is the default go-to for me. Like I have killed someone, haven't I? But they were like, "No, I saw you on Trekkin Up North," and we interviewed so many people, so many fans, and not just fans. We interviewed John Eves, Sean, who was there, Ellie, who was there, John, who I had like worshipped as a Starship god for decades, who just made the time, like all the way through the 4 days. Like me and Mike Number One would just sit there and we would talk to Dave Blass and John about Starship designs and the models of Factory Entertainment we're doing. And John, again, and it feels so big headed to say this, but it's like, John is my friend now, and it's insane to get to know these people. But that is the power of Star Trek, and that is like the one thing that Star Trek has above any other fan base is you can connect with these people, because at the end of the day, they are just people. They are human beings like the rest of us, and if you treat them with the respect and the kindness and the decency that any human deserves, it is you make these friendships and you have these friendships.
Absolutely.
And I was having, it was insane. I was having detailed conversations with Todd Stashwick. I was having conversations with Terry Farrell, and Doug Jones kissed me, and it's insane. It is absolutely insane.
Especially Doug.
He is. If you ever get to see Doug, he always has time. He always has time for you.
I have. I went, so my convention started this year or 2024. I went to first one was in San Antonio. It's called Space Con, which is it's more of a it's not a Trek only, it's everything. It's Trek, Star Wars, all that stuff, which was great. Um, and then I went to Trek to Dallas in November, which is a Star Trek and it's a creation event, which was and I can tell you, I mean, I liked them both. I mean, they were both phenomenal and great, but I liked creation, the Trek to Dallas more because and the only reason is that everybody's self-contained. Almost everyone stays in the hotel. So, you may you'll walk down the restaurant or the bar or whatever, and oh, there's Todd Stashwick, there's Michelle,
Yeah,
over there. Oh, there's Tawny Newsome just chilling out.
yeah.
And I because it's my first one, I went ahead and I splurged and did the VIP package. So we get all the meet and greets and all that stuff. And oh my God, Doug Jones, that he is the nicest. I mean, they were all nice. Don't get me wrong, but that oh my God, he's just so fun, so talkative, and just cheerful. And then when you go to get his autograph, everybody gets a free doggy hug. Period. And
He's
there is,
kind heart.
I don't think there is a mean bone in that man's body.
No, he is he is so kind. He is so kind with his time. I was there and we were talking, and I said, "Look, I'm part of this group," and it just so happens that a few days after, while we were at the convention, a few days later, our sister podcast, Monsters Up North, were talking about Doug Jones and his work in his films and Hocus Pocus and everything like that. And I said, "Look, the host Sammy is a huge fan. She's doing this episode. Could you send something to her?" And he said, "Give me your phone." I was like, okay. And he just recorded this lovely, wonderful message for Sammy saying, "Thank you
Oh,
so much for doing that. It is wonderful from your friend Doug." And it made her bawl her eyes out. She was crying. She couldn't believe it. And I just said, "This is just the type of person he is. He is just such a kind hearted, generous person. And he always has the time." And this is like not a one-off, like every single day he was there and he gave every single person at that convention the same respect, the same kindness, the same amount of time. And it just made everyone smile. Anyone who saw him went away with a massive smile on their face and they just felt the love that he had for these people. And it's something that you can never replicate.
and you can't. And another person that I can say, and I've been on by now, multiple Zooms with Ciroc Lofton.
Ciroc is amazing. Yeah.
Oh my God. We came in there and he was our last interview or meet and greet on that Friday, the first Friday. And he was the last one. So there was nothing else going on. He didn't have any more panels. He sat there and we all just talked. He just talked to us.
Yeah.
Visit
Yeah.
45 minutes. Just chilling, and, like, and I mean and I felt like I'm like, "I see you on a regular basis," and, like, I'd learned so much more about him. Oh, and I was like, "Okay, now I understand why and I'm not gonna tell his story per se, but just his story that he tells about, um, when he interviewed when not interviewed, when he, went in and, played for the part to be Jake, and how and what he did, and then how that got him the part is just oh my god, and then just the protection that Avery that he did not know until later on as an adult, that Avery did what he did for him behind the scenes is just phenomenal. And, but yeah, I'll leave I mean, yeah, he's oh god, that was a great
He was at the UK convention at Blackpool, and me and Graham got to speak to Ciroc, Armin, and Tim, and we were just stood there, man, and we were just having these conversations. And Armin, Armin is just he's one of my heroes, and I loved him even more after his Shuttlepod episode, and we were just having these conversations, man. And he was just like, if you ever do, there was an episode he was on about where Odo and Quark crash on a planet. And he said, if you ever do that episode, he said, here is my card. call me and we'll do it. And I'm just, do you know what I mean? And it's just like, wow,
Oh my
like this is someone
god.
I have revered for like 30 years. I have seen on the TV, I have grew up with for years. And I'm just talking to all of these people. And it's, you know, for me, I was born in 87. So I was born when the Next Generation started, and I had grew up on the original series. I've been a Star Trek fan since I was 2.5. And I have grew up with Star Trek, and to these people who I consider to be like an extended family, and to just meet them and talk to them and just realize that they are humans, but just how nice and welcoming and kind they are with their time. It gives me a new appreciation of them and everything that they have done, because it must be hard for them to speak to so many people and hear the same things again, but they just
And
still
tell the
have the
same
time for the
stories.
fans. Yeah, and they just have that time, man. And it's we spoke to Terry Farrell at STLV, and Terry actually recognized Graham because obviously Graham was in drag for 3 of the 4 days, which is a trooper. One of the days he came as Loxana. He came as Loxana Snatch, so he was Loxana Troy in the full wig, makeup, and everything like that. In the 45-degree heat, luckily STLV was air conditioned, but man, he was a trooper. And Terry was just walking down one of the corridors, and she was like, Graham! And he got a photo with her and everything.
That is
And he
so
was just
cool.
like, well, he was just, I would love to have you on Trekking Up North. And she's like, oh, but I've answered all these questions. He was like, no. He said, I don't care about interviewing you. I just want you to help us review a random episode of Star Trek, not even Deep Space Nine. And she was just like, I would absolutely love to do that. Like, just get this guest who is Jadzia Dax from DS9 and get her to watch a TNG episode or an Enterprise episode and just go, what do you think of that as an actor and stuff? And she was just like, yes, that's great. But she was a genuine human being. She was just a genuine person. And she just the love that these people had, and like, people can be intimidated when they meet stars and
Oh,
actors and
yeah.
everything like that. Don't. Just treat them like you would anyone else, and honestly, you will just you will love it. You will absolutely love it.
And
Yeah,
that helped me too, and you're right, that helped a lot too when I, actually met Garrett, Garrett Wang, because I'd been a Delta flyer and I had already been on some of the the Zooms for the tiers that I was on that we get to have. So by the time I actually met him at SpaceCon in San Antonio, you know, I knew who he was there. So that I guess that allure that that he's this, not that I'm saying he's not by any means, but I wasn't nervous to talk to him or anything like that. And then at the end of the day, when the lines were basically it was the convention was wrapping up, and he was just at his table just waiting for people to show up. And so I went back over there that evening and just sat, and finally got. I was going to get his autograph next day. I just went and got it that evening, and then because there was nobody else, waiting, there was no lines. It was just basically over. He said, "Hey, just pull up a chair," and me, the staff for the convention that were there, and we all just sat there and listened. For one, just talked Trek and non-Star Trek, and heard
yeah,
his stories for about an hour. I'm
yeah,
like, really? I'm sitting here talking to Harry freaking Kim,
yeah.
1 Pip Kim, not 2 Pip Kim, but he's still good. He's still the good Kim. Um, and I was like, "You kidding me? Like, how is this even possible?" And it is, and he has some good stories, and I can, and one of the stories he did tell us about Voyager was actually one of those ones, and you or may or not even heard about this, is um, the love and hate that Paramount received the day after the pilot premiered. And I had never heard that. I had never heard that story, heard what was going on. And he said, they had phone calls from, this is just about time. why haven't we done this before? Having a female captain, and they just loved it. To well, this should not be happening. Why did y'all do this? Yada yada yada. To they needed extra security at the studio because they
Oh
had
yeah,
threats.
yeah, yeah,
And I had not heard that part, so that really surprised me to hear that. So, but again, you're right. They're just and the fact that they're willing to do. I mean, yes, I know it's part of your membership when you're on there with them, but still, the fact that they will take that time to for the members that are to do those monthly zooms with their members, and
yeah,
they're not and they don't just talk to you. They literally, him and Robbie both are like, okay, hey, they take the time to talk to every single person that's on the, hey, what's going on? You got anything good to do? Or got any questions? How are you doing? What's going I'm like, so it is a two-way. They're treating us like just everyday people, and we're treating them just like, and so that would, that is so amazing. So I I am gonna go since this is a Star Trek themed podcast. I am gonna ask a few Star Trek ish more questions. Which obviously there will be. I'm gonna go with a hard one. What's your favorite series if you have one?
I have two, and I will always have two: Deep Space Nine and Enterprise. Um, Deep Space Nine because it really broke the mold for Star Trek, and it really just pushed the boundaries of what Star Trek could be. And it was horrendously underappreciated a little bit during its time, and it gained new respect with Netflix in the 2010s when it became available. Enterprise is Enterprise, man. First and foremost, I love the theme tune from season 1 and 2. I don't care what anybody says. Come at
I've
me.
never
I will defend
I
it.
know. I don't understand. That's one of those things.
Yeah,
I don't understand the hate for a theme.
yeah.
I don't get it, but
I
whatever.
don't. I don't get. I know this. I know Rick Berman didn't like it. I know a few people didn't like it in the cast. That's fine. Everything is subjective. I loved it. Enterprise for me, when Enterprise was announced, it was 2001. I was 12 years old, so I was still a wee bairn, as they say. I was 12, 13. How old was I? Oh God, I don't know. I was young, but it was my first Star Trek that I was sort of in on the ground floor. See, Star Trek in the UK was very odd if you weren't rich enough to have satellite TV. The BBC aired Star Trek throughout the 90s, and the Next Generation aired years after it aired in the United States. Same with Deep Space Nine. Same with Voyager.
Year
So years. So we were 3 years behind. We
okay,
were
I didn't
three
know
years
that.
behind. So with Enterprise, it was sort of season 7 of Voyager was still ending when Enterprise was about to start on UK TV, right? So there was a 2-year gap there. So, yeah, there was a year gap because Enterprise started in 2002 in the UK. So, Enterprise was the first one where it was like, right, we are watching this within months of the US getting it. I didn't have the internet at the time, and it wasn't as globalized as it is today, where you must watch it the day it comes out, otherwise it'll get spoiled. This was very much like you can wait 6 months and not have anything said to you. And I just remember vividly there was a 35th anniversary of Star Trek in 2001, and the BBC had did a Star Trek night, and they had showed the first UK exclusive clip of Enterprise. And it was the
Oh
bit
wow.
in the pilot, it was a bit in Broken Bow where Archer meets T'Pol in the ready room, and he just says, the Vulcans don't think we can flush a toilet without one of them to assist us. And I had watched that clip dozens of times when I had recorded it. So when Sky One, which is the satellite channel in the UK, had the first episode of Enterprise. I was just so excited. I was unbelievably excited. We had got satellite TV for this. Like, this was a monumental event. And I sat there, and Enterprise was that core memory of being so excited and being on the ground floor of a new Star Trek series there and then, and me remembering it fully. But on a more personal note, it was also one of the series that helped me through a lot of dark times in my life. It was something that I look back and I remember fondly watching and helping me get over depression. And I was very ill at one point during season two. I had meningitis, and I was on the sofa, and my grandmother was with me, and I gotta tell you, man, we binged 12 episodes back to back of season two of Enterprise. And man, she was like, she was a Trekkie, but she was like, man, like, even this is a bit. But it was a core memory for me because I recently lost my grandmother, and talking about Enterprise brings back that memories of spending time with her, watching Enterprise, and it was her very last series that she had ever watched. We tried to watch Discovery, but it wasn't really her thing. But it was just it's that memory I have of it was the last Star Trek series of the golden era, as we'll
Mhm.
call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just it's so personal to me, and it just has memories of it helping me get over so many depressing times in my life, sad times in my life, and just being with my grandmother for those 12 episodes where she was
That's
just
awesome.
there and we were just watching it and watching it, and she never complained once. She never said anything. She was just there because I was ill and she just wanted to show support. And I she just she supported all of this. She supported me going onto these podcasts. She always wanted the very best for me because she was like, "You don't like your job. You want to have fun," and I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." And she just encouraged me to do this and go forward. And I like to think that I am honoring her memory by continuing to do this and to share my passion. So Enterprise, DS9 obviously, but Enterprise for me is just very, very close to me, and cancelled way too soon. We needed a Romulan war. Why didn't we get a Romulan war?
Oh,
But
we needed that. It just
we
that
did.
irritated me. We needed
Yeah,
and as Scott says, Scott Bakula has said in, on his interview that he did with the on the Decon Chamber, is that they were the only series that was not in syndication, that
yeah,
was not syndicated. If they had not been in syndication, they would have gotten their 7. But because they were in the network model and UPN was trying to do what UPN could whatever they could do, and, he always jokes, I don't know if it was Scott, oh, they made he said it, they'd get bumped for, a baseball game, and I think it was either Connor or either Connor or Dominic said, "Here," and I live in Texas, they'd get bumped for high school football,
yeah.
games. And
It was
so
St. Louis. They bumped
yeah,
Enterprise
yeah,
for so
the
even in his
baseball team.
hometown. Yeah,
Yes,
even in
yes,
his
it is.
hometown, his show was bumped.
Yeah, and so that's what they yeah, I mean, I liked it. It is by far my preferred episode. I mean, I can just put it on and just work and do stuff in the background. And my main reason what I have loved about it the most was it lets us see well, I'm a little bit older. I was 25 when it came out, but I saw TNG when it aired. So that was my first episode, but so we now have replicators and transporters are just an everyday thing. All the doctors, Crusher doing her thing, whatever. She's even more advanced than McCoy and all that stuff. But then we go back to the 22nd century, and they're learning how to explore and how to take those steps out to deep space. And um, they don't have all of the advanced weapons and technologies that even the Vulcans have, which they are withholding. and that's why they're like, "Are you sure you want? Are you ready?" Well, first off, that I like my Vulcans, but still, they were sitting there, you know, holding them back,
Yeah,
but probably, and I was discussing this with somebody else, another person I talked to, was it right or wrong for them to hold them back? And I think in a way it probably was because if we'd gone out too soon,
yeah,
you know, we would have had Earth could have been wiped off the face of the we could have been wiped off the planet. Um, so yes, it was a shame. Um, and I just loved, I always loved those little tidbits, those little nuggets they would give us when like and a great episode was Dear Doctor, when he Archer asks Fox, well, can you cure this or not? And he's got to decide, does he tell the captain that he does have the cure, but he's got that conflict between Phlox and T'Pol talks to him is like, okay, just remember the Vulcans have been on the Earth for a century by that time. Are you ready to basically be doing this? And we're not here to. And he finally has the realization that we're not here to play God. And it was just, and you could tell finally all the back and forth between him and T'Pol and just the Vulcans about the non-interference and all that stuff. But I love that line. He goes, until someone gives us a directive on what we should and shouldn't do,
yeah,
I'll have to be the one who kind of makes those decisions. And you
yeah,
could tell it did eat at him a little bit that he had to kind of, I guess, acknowledge that Paul was actually right. I guess it's the right word to say for that. That it's not that she was just trying to be a pain in the butt. She was doing it for very good reasons. And I loved also how, the last episode with Admiral Forrest, before, and again, it was season 4, so they were having to wrap all this stuff up so fast. And when him and Saval are walking through the embassy, and he basically goes, Ambassador, are you afraid of humans? And he just openly admits, basically, yes,
yeah, yeah.
because you've
They
done what
represented them.
yeah,
Yeah,
you've done in 100 years what took us a millennia to do. And so, yeah, that was yeah, that I just like the whole start of it, and we could go on forever on that, but I do need to keep on moving here real quick. But
yeah.
I've
We
got
we could.
oh my
It's.
god,
I'm just glad it's getting. It's very much like DS9. I'm very glad that Enterprise has gained new fans over the last 15 years with
and
streaming.
the producers, if Trek are realizing that they basically probably messed up because
Yeah,
the love that Enterprise has gotten, especially in Strange New Worlds
yeah,
and Discovery, even
yeah.
Discovery.
And Lower
Oh my
Decks.
god. Yes, Lower
Lower
Decks, all of
Decks.
them. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna the last Trek question I'm gonna ask you today before we go, and I can say last year you would have been. I could bet I could guarantee your answer would have been what I'm gonna would have been what I think it would be. But what's your if we could have the technology? What's one piece of Star Trek technology you would like to have outside of the medical? I mean, I know we want all the medical. I want all that medical, but that's a given.
You
I
see,
feel
that was
like
such a hard question. My camera went out of focus.
I did.
Um, I that is a difficult one, man, because there are pros and cons to all of it, given the current state of our planet, which is like, um, technology. I would, I would state technology-wise, warp drive,
Okay.
because we need to, as a species, it is natural for us to expand. And with the advent of warp drive, yes, we can get to other planets, but obviously it takes a while. But with the advent of warp drive, we could
Become
finally,
multiplanetary.
yeah, we can become
Mhm.
multiplanetary, and we could go to the asteroid belt and get the resources from the asteroid belt without having to mine the Earth completely of all of its resources. Um, in terms of other technology, though, I replicators
Yep.
are
Transporters
absolutely
would have been nice
needed.
last year. You would have liked to have a transporter last year.
Whew, yes. Oh, just a runabout, man. Jeez, anything,
Oh, true.
anything,
Anything to get you
anything to beat that.
from UK to there to here. Oh, good.
Yeah, man, it crazy. But it warp drive because I would love to go to another planet. I know it will probably never happen in my lifetime. Um,
Yeah, no.
but
Warp,
I've
no.
always been yeah, I've been fascinated with warp drive for as long as I can remember, and I did a lot of research into it when I did physics as a at a very younger age, and it just fascinates me, and the fact that it is scientifically it's scientifically a possibility is intriguing. And what I love about Star Trek is look at the technology that we have had over 60 years of Star Trek, and look at what we have today. We've got mobile
Hello.
phones.
We're
Yeah,
doing this right here. I
we
mean,
mobile
wow.
phones, we have the advent of like wireless technology. We've got PDAs, pads, and I think it's nothing inspires the human spirit and the mind as Star Trek has done. I don't think any other franchise has done that. And I think Star Trek, there are a lot of things to thank Star Trek for. Star Trek gives people hope. It gives me hope for a better tomorrow because again, but it it just helps us see what humanity could become and what we could strive towards. And Lord have mercy, I would love to have warp drive, and I would love to have replicators, but we are getting there. I think as a culture, we just need to mature a little bit.
We will. We'll get there. Like you said, may not
Yeah.
be in our lifetime, but I do feel there are people out there that want to do this and they're trying their
Yes,
best. And thanks to Gene Roddenberry's, vision almost 60 years ago, we'll get there. But you're right. We still have a long, long way to go.
we don't need a catastrophic global event for someone to have warp drive. Yeah, for someone to invent warp drive. However, if there are Vulcans up there right now, please just do it already. Please, just come
Come
on,
see us.
just come on.
Save us.
We're ready. We are
We're ready.
we are more than nothing. As a millennial, nothing can surprise me anymore. So just do it, okay? Just hop on down. As Drew would say on The Price is Right, come on down.
Well, Captain, thank you for doing this today, or I guess tonight for you, today for me still, this afternoon. And I appreciate you doing this, and I will talk to you later. Have a good one.
Live long and
Night.
prosper.
Bye.
Bye.